Hey YouTube, welcome back to Dwayne's World. So what is the difference between a scalp and a hard cut? Well, if you want to find out, you better stay tuned. All right, so welcome back to Season 2, Episode 29 here on Dwayne's World. So what are we doing today? Well, we'll be doing a couple things. The first thing I want to give you guys is an update on how well the Celcius worked on killing the Spurge. Second is, I have a buddy of mine that asked me a question the other day, and he asked, Dwayne, why haven't you used your GM1000? And I think it's a great question. And really the answer to that question is because of the height of cut that I'm currently maintaining at. Now my GM1000, I would say, based on the height of cut that I'm currently maintaining at, has too many blades. Yes, there is a thing, it's too many blades on a reel mower. The GM1000 has a 14 blade reel, which isn't necessarily ideal if you're cutting at 3/4 inch or higher. And my lawn currently is sitting at about 7/8. Now when it comes to cutting at lower heights, the GM1000 does a fabulous job. In fact, if I'm cutting at about a 1/2 inch or lower, the GM1000 is the mower I really want to use. So that begs the question, Dwayne, what is the difference between a scalp and a hard cut? And I think a lot of people may throw these terms around loosely and may be using one when they mean something else. So let me kind of define to you guys how I look at each of those terms. A scalp, in my opinion, again, this is my opinion only, is when you've removed practically most of the green from your lawn. So when do you do a scalp? Well, there's a couple times you can really do this. I think the most common is during the beginning of the growing season. And really what you're doing there is removing as much of the dead debris as possible. So that way it gives your Bermuda an opportunity to wake up and really start off the growing season. The other time you may also do a scalp is during the middle of the season. Yes, that's right, during the middle of the season. Now you may be wondering, well, why? Why would I want to put my lawn through that? Well, for all of us Bermuda owners that have had Bermuda over the years knows once it gets to the month of July and August, our Bermuda gets really, really thick. And when it gets really thick, it's really hard to be able to maintain an even height of cut. You tend to scalp in certain areas, you get a little bit of unevenness. A lot of people actually blame their reel mower for this, when in fact it has nothing to do with the reel mower and has everything to do with how thick the Bermuda is. So the scalp, or the mid-season scalp, allows you to be able to thin out your turf and kind of do a mid-season reset, if that makes sense. Now the other time you may also be looking at doing a scalp is a little less common, but it's at the end of the growing season or towards the end if you plan on overseeding with perennial rye. Overseeding, that's right. You may see that here on Dwayne's World, but you're going to have to stay tuned if you want to find out the answer to that question. So now the question is, well, what's the difference between a scalp and a hard cut? And the way I would define a hard cut is generally used when I want to reestablish a height of cut. Meaning maybe the lawn got away from me, maybe I missed a mow, maybe I went on vacation, and when I came back, the lawn was way overgrown. And I can no longer maintain the height of cut without the lawn looking really bad. So in those cases, what I do is a hard cut, and I would hard cut it to a slightly lower height of cut than what I want to maintain at. Meaning maybe I want to maintain at 3/4 inch, so I'll hard cut it to 5/8. Now maybe you're not taking off all of the green as you would on a scalp, and there'll still be a lot of green left on your lawn, but you're basically allowing your Bermuda to be able to reestablish and be able to maintain at that height of cut that you wanted prior to the lawn getting out of control. So that is the reason why I'm going to be breaking out the GM1000, because of the fact that the GM1000 is actually set to a little over a 1/2 inch. And this is going to be perfect, so that way I can get my lawn back to 3/4 inch. I hope that makes sense. So with that, let's go ahead and take a look at the GM1000. This is the mower I'll be using today. This is a GM1000 made by Toro. Toro makes absolutely wonderful lawnmowers. So whether you're talking about a Rotary, whether you're talking about a GreensMaster, Toro does a fabulous job when it comes to their lineup. Now, the one thing I'll say about my Toro GM1000 is I believe that I have actually too high of a blade count. The blade count on this particular reel is 14 blades. Now, although that sounds awesome, and I definitely think it's awesome, it's really not realistic when you're trying to maintain at 3/4 inch. Like I mentioned earlier, if you're cutting at a 1/2 inch or lower, it definitely works out really, really well. So when it comes to my GM1000, I've actually done very, very little with it, with the exception of some of the maintenance items, such as air filter, carburetor, new gas, new belts, greased all the fittings, just the general things you would do to be able to maintain a particular reel mower. All right, so one other thing I just wanted to quickly mention also was I will be using the grass catcher when mowing today because of the fact that I'm going to be doing this hard cut. Anytime you're doing a scalp, a hard cut, dealing with the weed problem or a fungus issue, you absolutely want to be able to catch your clippings. Now, one of the things I will say about my GM1000 that I have also done is I've removed the transport wheels from the actual unit. And the reason why I've done this is because of the fact that it allows you to be able to mow closer to objects without actually hitting them. It is one of the downfalls to owning a GM1000. If you leave those transport axles in there, it is going to make it a little more difficult, especially if you're trying to mow up close to a certain object such as a fence or maybe a curb. So with that, it definitely helps out and is the reason why I chose to remove them. So with that, let's go ahead and start up the GM1000 and get it going. All right. So let's make sure the gas is on, set the choke. The way you start at the GM1000 is actually slightly different. You got to turn on the on switch, make sure your fuel's on. You're going to set your choke to about halfway, and then you're going to make sure your throttle is all the way up. Now, if you notice there, it took 2 pulls. Now, that's not extremely uncommon. Sometimes it does start on the first pull, but in some cases it may take 2 pulls, which is totally fine. All right, guys, so I just wanted to provide a little update for you on what the lawn looks like a few days after applying the Celcius. And as you can see, I do have a little bit of yellowing and discoloring on my lawn where I laid down that Celcius. Now, this is where, again, even though Celcius does not have a temperature restriction, I would say, though, in much hotter climates like I'm in right now, where generally our temperatures are over 100 degrees, this can easily be a side effect. However, even though there is a slight discoloring, it would be nothing compared to if I used like a 3-way or a Spectricide, where it would pretty much look like crispy grass all throughout. This will quickly recover in about a week or so, so I'm not too concerned about it. But let me show you guys some of the Celcius going to work. All right, guys, so let me give you an example of the after effects with the Celcius on the Spurge. As you can see, there's absolutely some yellowing going on here. This Spurge will eventually die. It is the one thing to keep in mind when it comes to Celcius. It can take up to 2 weeks before you actually see its full effect. Let me give you another example. All right, guys, so let me show you a different area here. This is some more Spurge. As you can see, much more yellowing here. This is eventually going to die off. Again, just needs a little more time. All right, guys, so let me kind of show you probably where some of the best effects I've had so far with the Celcius. And as you guys can see here, this is a little bit of a bigger patch of where I had a lot of Spurge. But the Celcius has absolutely went to work to kill off that Spurge. Now, eventually, it's all going to look like that. All right, so if you're not quite getting this result just yet, give it a little more time before you decide to throw down a second application. Woo-wee, it is hot. But I'm gonna have to do a double cut. The lawn is all kind of uneven, just because of the height of cut reset here. But, gotta show you what the first pass looks like. And look at that stripe action. Yeah! Let me go ahead and turn it around. All right, so there we are. Looking pretty good. Very excited about what the double cut's gonna look like. You know, again, I ran my stripes in this direction here. I'm gonna come and follow that back up with this direction here. I really like the diamond pattern. But, as you guys can see here, I got some scalp action going on right here. You know, double cut's definitely gonna help even that out. It's not gonna do much for the scalp. Scalping is what it is. It's gonna grow back. I got a little bit up front too. That's a little bit harder to see from this angle, but with that, let's go ahead and get on to the double cut. Looking great. Guys, I just want to jump in here on the video because its questions come up since Real Rollers has announced their new Revolution lawnmower that they'll be releasing, I believe, in January, with some pre-orders going on in September. People have asked, Dwayne, do you plan on picking up that mower? And I got to be honest with you, you know, anything that Real Rollers does, in my opinion, generally turns to gold. I absolutely love the design of that new mower. And I gotta say, I'm very, very tempted. Although I did tell my wife about it, and I explained that you do get a $500 discount when you pre-order. And her response was, $500 discount? How much is the mower? And then I just changed the subject after that. But you'll have to wait and see, because hopefully, I can get my hands on one. But that's going to probably be more 2024. But I just thought I'd throw it out there because I know that's kind of the buzz right now with the Rolex coming out, with the new Revolution coming out. Is Dwayne, what are your plans? Well, I'm not going to say that I don't enjoy using the mowers I do, and I will still continue to use those mowers. Don't you worry. Those bad boys ain't going anywhere. But the future, who knows what new mowers I will be having in the arsenal. The one thing I will say is you guys will be the first to know. So with that, let's get back to the video. You know, guys, truth be told, I didn't realize it till right now, but this is my first double cut of the season, believe it or not. Seems crazy. You know, I would have thought I'd done a double cut, but I really keep thinking about it. I don't think I have. You know, I may have followed back up with the mow the following day in a different direction, but not within the same day. But all right, but either way, let's go ahead and take a look. Oh yeah, look at that diamond cut action. Looking great. Scalp action. Let me go ahead and turn it around. All right, guys, so what do you think? I think it's absolutely looking great. You know, the color is a little bit muted, but that's okay. I think with the height of cut, it definitely changed the color a little bit. When it grows back up, I think the color is going to come back even that much stronger. As I mentioned, a lot of scalp action going on right there. It was much smaller during the single pass, but the double cut definitely evened out that part, but definitely picked up some more scalping as well as right here. I'll show you guys some other scalping I have at the front of the lawn as well, but I'm absolutely happy with the way this double cut height of cut reset came out. Now again, this is at 1/2 inch height of cut. Now it might be slightly off, meaning I'm not using a height of cut accu gauge that is 100% precise. This is just with a straight bar and a tape measure. So I'm probably close to between 0.5 and 0.6 if I have to guess, but probably closer to the 0.5. But I think that's going to definitely work out when I bring it back to 3/4 of an inch, which is my preferred height of cut on my Bermuda. Now let me go ahead and take you up to the front here and show you guys where I got a little bit more scalp action, just so you guys can see here. And again, I'm not worried about this. It's going to grow back. Got some scalp action going on there, scalp action going on there, as well as kind of across the front here near the concrete. Now, one thing about the rotary scissors, I'll say, it actually is hard to scalp using them. You kind of have to hold them at a little bit of an angle. It's not really what they're intended for. You know, they're intended not to scalp. And it definitely does the job. Maybe not so much on a scalp job, but definitely does a job whenever you're maintaining the lawn. Absolutely. Looking great. All right, guys. So I just came out to the lawn, did a little bit more work today. You know, I filmed the video of the hard cut a couple days ago, but I wanted to wrap up this video today by kind of talking to you about a common question that people have sometimes when you're doing a mid-season scalp or a height of cut reset, or even a lawn leveling for that matter. And that question is whether or not you should still continue doing your PGR applications when you're doing one of these processes. And the answer to that question is yes, you absolutely still want to continue to use PGR. I believe when you use PGR, you should start your season with it and you should end your season with it. Meaning there should not really be a break of the schedule in between based on something you might be doing in the lawn. I think your lawn will see the most benefit from this. It keeps it under regulation. The last thing you want is that lawn to come out of regulation and then put it back into regulation. I think that does more harm than it does good. So if you guys had that question, I want to make sure you guys still follow that same schedule. So that way you can still continue to maintain a really great looking turf. So with that, as always, be excellent and party on.